So Milos Kerkez has finally left AFC Bournemouth. It took a while, but the deal has at last gone through. Now, earlier this month, we released a video about Milos and how he fits into Arne Slot's side at Liverpool. So check it out by clicking the card at the top of the screen, as we think that Liverpool fans should get excited and he will excel there. But have you known a transfer saga that has been drawn out for as long as it has? I'm not sure I have. It seems like months ago that Milos was effectively engaged to Liverpool Football Club, but now, thank God, the wedding has happened and we can all breathe a collective sigh of relief that Fabrizio Romano's timeline will be that little bit quieter with AFC Bournemouth news. We hope. Now, unlike Dean Howson's departure, where there is not expected to be a reunion with him anytime soon, for Milos it will be immediate as we face Liverpool on the first game of the season. And this brings into question quite how Cherries fans will react when we see him. If online posts from different individuals and fan accounts are to be believed, we should be giving Milos a fair bit of grief about how he behaved during this long drawn-out saga. But did he actually do anything bad? We need to look into it and maybe provide a little context. Now, as Mark McAdam confirmed with us on a recent recording on Back of the Net, we know that Milos changed his agency in January. It's got to be said that before January, the murmurings of him making a move away from Bournemouth, well, they were nothing but faint whispers, fuelled only by maybe Cherry supporters themselves who raved about each and every performance of his. Yes, there was a weird post about Raheem Sterling where we all felt he was twerking for Chelsea, but other than that, was there really anything? Either way, since his agent changed, it does feel like the decibel level has increased exponentially about a potential move. So who or what has been driving this whole agenda? Now, firstly, it's got to be remembered that sports agents make no money if a player stays put. So they will often lick their lips at acquiring the talent of such a young and exciting footballing prospect. And of course, Milos is exactly that. And it's in their business to put his name out there for the hype, for the column inches, and for the player's own value, as ultimately they're looking to line their own pockets, right? Now, Liverpool were not the only top-flight club interested. There were a whole host of Premier League sides and also European teams that were seeking his services. And this is where I'm sure his agents got a fair bit of value for money out of Fabrizio Romano. But amid the flurry of activity off the pitch, one thing that stayed the same was Milos's application on it. He never put in less than 100%. And my God, we witnessed some stunning performances, assists and goals from him, making him the left back that all Premier League fans couldn't help but ignore. But why were Liverpool front runners for his signature? Well, to be honest, it was pretty clear, right? 1. Richard Hughes is at Liverpool now, formerly at Bournemouth as technical director. He's a person that's always had a close and personal relationship with Milos and his family long before he even got to Dean Court. 2. Milos, well, he's going to be playing for the team that is in the Champions League. They've just won the Premier League, and also they've pretty much staked their claim for the title next season with the signing of Florian Wirtz, the most expensive transfer in Bundesliga history. 3. Milos's best mate is at Liverpool in Dominik Szoboszlai. Of course it's a no-brainer that you'll join. And 4, when you think that their current left-back is entering the twilight of his career, it probably means that you're going to be a shoo-in for that position. So it made sense, right? So over time, the plethora of rumoured clubs was slowly whittled down to one, and the connection between Milos and Liverpool became indelible and inevitable. Now, by May, after the season finished, it felt like it was as good as confirmed that Milos would be leaving the best club to play in red on the South Coast to then go to the best club to play in red in the country. We knew it. He knew it. I think everyone in football knew it, right? But for some reason, it seemed like talks, they were long, they were protracted, and my God, they took ages to go through. Well, not really, because the talk started less than 2 weeks ago. Not my words, the words of Mark McAdam. But why did they take so long? If he knew he was moving in May, why didn't he just go then, right? Well, this is the big question, but the general feeling is that on AFC Bournemouth's part, having banked the money for Dean Howson, Dom Solanke and Kiefer Moore in the last financial year, delaying the deal meant that we could have the opportunity to book the sale of Milos in the following financial year. which would make sense, right? Especially for AFC Bournemouth, where PSR is a little bit more tender than it is compared to other clubs. But similarly, it would also make sense to Liverpool as well, who have just splashed out ridiculous amounts of money for worst. So, whilst it's pretty much been announced, it doesn't necessarily mean that the sale will go for the figures towards this financial year just closing, because on numerous occasions in the past, right, we have sold or loaned players or even got them ourselves where the contract doesn't actually begin until July the 1st. And there would have been further complications that might have delayed the deal as well, including the negotiation on the price for Milos, of course. Not only that, too, he was dealing with the technicalities of having a change of agent in January, which meant that there was probably some extra time needed to dot the I's or cross the T's. Is that right? Cross the T? Yeah, you can't cross I's. Well, you can. During this extensive delay, though, fans, I think from both clubs, have been getting a little bit twitchy. Liverpool fans wondering if they'll get it done, and Bournemouth fans having the faint, minuscule hope that he will stay, whilst also mentally trying to deal with the drama of having other big name departures as well. In many ways, we just wanted him gone so we could rid our mind of him and then concentrate on signing our left back, which we actually did before he left. That makes sense. As a result, though, I think everyone on both sides has been tracking Milos's every move and reading into each of his actions quite a lot. And I mean a lot. In fact, probably too much. But get this, he's effectively been on gardening leave from Bournemouth ever since the season finished, right? But regardless, people have been looking at his social media follows, his comments, his likes, his appearances on podcasts. It's all been a little bit crazy. The lad has basically been stalked online. There are laws about that. Maybe it's understandable for football fans because with the lack of meaningful football to watch recently, the Club World Cup is trash, as we know. Everyone's been going a bit stir crazy and we've been getting consumed by the social media whirlwind that has followed this whole saga around. If the deal was done within, say, the space of a week, no one would have really cared and all this would have been done and dusted. So it isn't necessarily Milos's fault here that we've all been going round in circles online. And we have, haven't we? In contrast, of course, the Howson deal, well, that was pretty much wrapped up very quickly for Club World Cup reasons. And maybe Liverpool had been in that tournament, they might have wanted Kerkez, and it could have been a different story. But let's not peddle the narrative that Howson oozed class when Kerkez didn't, though, right? Because, yes, it was Kerkez's father and agent that was peddling his name, just like Dino's name was when Real Madrid came calling. And the rate of Fabrizio Romano tweets, let's not forget, it was relentless. And that came from Dino's side and his agent. And look, just to let you into a little secret, from mine and Tom's visit to the training ground back in April, I feel as though we can say this now. Whilst playing, we were watching the players train. The players were constantly goading Dino about Madrid. Ooh, Madrid-style remarks like friends on the in-betweeners. No one was doing that to Milos regarding Liverpool. But then I suppose you could argue that Dino didn't seemingly get involved with all the social media antics, and I do get that, and that's what people are pissed off by, right? Okay, so what social media antics are we talking about here? That's the big question. Firstly, he posted a tweet with the eyes emoji. Outrageous, how dare he? Hang him, that is a joke. Come on, seriously, are we getting agitated about that? What's he supposed to be doing in the closed season? Be tweeting religiously about AFC Bournemouth? I mean, the season's done. But what about the picture with him and a Liverpool flag, though? The flag? Maybe you don't know about this? What are you on about? I'll tell you. Some Bournemouth fans were losing their shit a little bit after Milos posed for a photo with a Liverpool fan after doing a podcast, and they were saying how disrespectful it was of him to be stood there as a Cherries player, effectively twerking for the club he's about to join. I mean, yes, maybe a little bit ill thought out, but the facts of the matter are that off-air, one of the people said to Milos, "Can we have a private photo?" This was after it was recorded, right? And they gave him a Liverpool flag to stand in front of, and then they decided to distribute it to social media land, probably, I'm guessing, against Milos's will. He shouldn't have done it, though. We shouldn't have posed for a photo. Yes, I get that, but whilst everyone is talking about this, they're also failing to acknowledge that on the actual same podcast, during the recording of it, Milos turned up and presented two AFC Bournemouth Michael B. Jordan shirts, one red, one black, to each of the podcast hosts. A public showing that he was still a Bournemouth player. Why is no one talking about that? In fact, it was a while ago that Milos launched his own YouTube channel and just started doing these random videos of him sat there streaming, playing games, answering questions every so often. He's removed the channel now, which possibly points to his total impulsivity. But on the stream, despite the plethora of live chats, I mean, it was being flooded with Liverpool fans saying, come to Liverpool, all that kind of stuff. We've seen it on social media, right? The lad just sat there. He didn't respond to any of it, and he even killed the conversation dead by saying, I'm not coming to Liverpool. Yeah, but Sam, what about the social media likes, though? Well, yes, he liked a few posts on social media, some of which on Twitter, but yes, also on Instagram too. And of course, we know that all the Instagram likes are visible. We get that. Hang on 1 minute. Antoine Semenyo did the same recently on a post that linked Ilya Zabani with PSG. So what? Look, if a mate of mine who chefed at the local Premier Inn got headhunted to work at the Savoy in London, then I'd be pleased for him too, right? Supporters moan about players and professionals being too media trained and not connecting with fans, but this is the reason why they don't. Because all their likes and follows get taken out of context and then shared around like it is some kind of massive gesture of disrespect to the club. Come on, be serious. And look, I know this kind of once a cherry, always a cherry thing gets banded about, right? But get this, every club's fans say that. And unlike us, players, unfortunately, move on. Maybe it's just hard for us because we're so invested in the club and its future, and it's just difficult for us to reconcile that players who give their all on the pitch don't have the same long love for the club as we do, potentially. Either way, I think that the bottom line here is that Milos is still a bloody young lad still, but he never put in less than 110% for us every game, and just a few social media likes, I don't think it should really result in him being vilified. I've even seen someone out there framing him in the same conversation as Ryan Fraser. But my God, the wee man and him, slightly different stratospheres when it comes to disrespect, eh? I get that we're all tense. I think we just need to calm down somewhat. Look, we've got a lot of recent departures that have left our defence in a very uncertain position. But now that Milos has moved on, I sense that we can all almost breathe a sigh of relief a little bit. We can look back fondly and remember what we had, but now we can actually be a little bit excited about what is to be an exciting July in Transferland. And hopefully, according to Bill Foley, it will be. But when the season starts, though, how are we going to greet Milos? Well, look, I'm not going to be chanting his name or anything, certainly before or during the game anyway. But look, I might clap his name being read out on the team sheet at Anfield. And I'll also be looking on at awe at how Liverpool have bagged themselves an absolute baller. But that's about it. He's gone and it's done. I think there's just a little bit more angst that sits with the AFC Bournemouth fans at the moment because of the price as well. But look, that's not Milos's fault. £40 million. Have they bagged him on the cheap? Well, I don't know, but as left-backs go, he's up there in the all-expensive players for that position. I think at 40 mil, he becomes the 7th most highest sale. So, to some, £40 million it does seem too low a fee, and we can argue about that until the cows come home, of course. But there is no sell-on clause, so what it actually represents is a £31 million profit before fees. So when you take into account amortisation, i.e. the cost of a player being spread over 5 years, whilst the cash surplus is £25 million, for PSR purposes, it registers as £31 million profit. Back of the net. Shameless plug. But look, Kerkez was an industrious player and exciting for AFC Bournemouth. He wore his heart on his sleeve and everywhere else besides. And it's probably fair to say that the majority of Bournemouth fans, well, they're going to be appreciative when we meet again. Some will be respectful and there are others that will just be simply nonplussed. But as for getting angry about how he disrespected the club, not for me, Clive. I mean, look, Artur Boruc swore at his own fan base, told fans to F off and threw the V finger at them. Yeah, I'd happily sit down with a pint with him tomorrow, as he's a legend and his performance dictated how I feel about him. They are everything that I wanted them to be. Milos, is he a legend? Well, I wouldn't quite put him in that bracket just for the lack of longevity factor, but my God, he was a baller. On the pitch, he was always destined for bigger things, and we got good use out of him while we had him, and we made a healthy profit too. You can't say fairer than that. I think a lot of the issues and conjecture about his departure have been exaggerated and exacerbated somewhat because it was an extended transfer move, but it wasn't Milos's fault. Now that July is arriving, I'm actually getting excited about what's to come for AFC Bournemouth. Last season was ridiculously good, and this season coming, well, it all feels a little bit sort of siege mentality. Right now it does, given the lack of players that we've got in, but siege mentality, that's what Bournemouth do best, right? So Milos Buciu, that's Hungarian for goodbye, I'm told, and we will miss you and all that. Good luck at Liverpool. We look forward to seeing you in August, but I hope you don't mind too much, but I'm going to be unfollowing you from Twitter now. See ya.